We're back on Nemo Nation with another fast-paced Fastport Studios half hour.
It is fast-paced. It is Fastport. By the way, it's also truckdown.com. Go over there, get out of the ditch, get back on the road, make that miracle happen. Fast and furious is the only way to kind of describe some of these half hours we have here, where we try to squeeze in 3 folks over a 27-minute period. But if anybody can do it, it's the man with the plan himself, Captain Nemo. 20,000 leagues across the country, as a matter of fact. Good morning to you, sir.
Good morning to you, sir.
We got a great first guest. I just kind of get rolling and bumbling and rumbling and stumbling into this show. Would you care to do the honors?
A great first guest who is a great friend to Bridgette Blitch, who founded Blitch Westley Bridgette, with a passion to serve those in the supply chain. She's an attorney at law that we've been blessed to know. And we have done a lot of co-hosting through the years, too, at the MCIEF events down in Florida. Bridgette, good morning.
Well, good morning, Dave. It is great to be here. Thank you so much for having me on this morning.
I'll tell you what, I think everybody's smiling right now. I can't tell you how many people tell me, boy, that Bridgette Blitch, I just love to hear her voice.
Well, you know what, it is a blessing to be able to do what I do. And like you said, I am one of these rare people that figured out there was a specific niche for attorneys to work in transportation law, right as I was graduating out of law school. And I said to myself, I will do whatever it takes. I will move anywhere in the country to be able to practice transportation law, because I love the people, and I got to meet a lot of the attorneys. Also, my colleagues now that I've known for over, a decade and a half now, and I just love the attorneys too. And I said, this is an amazing industry, not only in the legal side of the profession, where, so much of it in the legal world is cutthroat. And unfortunately, lawyers get a bad name, but we're really, I saw this profession. I said, we can really do some good here. And these are people who are creating jobs and supporting families and supporting communities. They have to be taken care of, like, by the best of the best. They deserve it. So, yeah, that's why I moved from Colorado to Florida, so I could start my career in transportation law years ago, in 2008.
Bridgette, I've gotten fond of telling Dave this, and a number of my friends who are thinking of starting small businesses, who are thinking of kind of going out on their own and hanging their own shingle in regards to driving across the country, or just making a small business like my friend Terry Taylor, who has 1313 Mockingbird Toys in Lawrence, Kansas. I say friends who start with attorneys stay in business. Friends who end with attorneys don't end as friends. And Dean Croak talks about this all the time, too. You're only as good as your partners. And I was hoping, and Dave has a couple of questions for you as well, I was hoping just for a little bit you could talk about the importance for small companies getting started, why it's important when you're putting together your team, even if it's simply a matter of having good folks on retainer, why it's so important to have legal representation from the get-go once you're starting your own journey as an owner-operator or as a small business owner in the transportation sector.
Yeah, absolutely. I'd love to talk about that. And that is a great question, because when you're in business, every day you fight. You fight for what you've created to continue to support. And maybe it's just yourself and your family, right? You start as an owner-operator, and then you build your business to your own independent motor carrier operation, and then you grow it to a brokerage division and a warehouse. And I've seen this, where one husband and wife, they start their business, and the vision is to continue to sustain and to thrive, so that you can ensure that your wife or your husband has time to raise your kids and take them to school and do those things that are meaningful, because time is fleeting. And so you want to protect what it is that you're creating, so you can continue to support your family. And then eventually, as I've seen over my practice, that you can support other families. So it starts with creating a company that insulates your family from liability, right? The general rule is that you're not going to be liable for the acts of your company. Now, of course, there's always exceptions. You can agree to be liable, and you can sign personal guarantees and things like that, but you make informed decisions. as to what liability you agree to take on. So you protect yourself individually, and then you protect the business from others that would try to attack it. And that means following the proper corporate due diligence. So you're setting up your company, you're incorporating in the state that you want to be domiciled in, and you take the steps to do small things like getting a corporate book and having those charter documents like your bylaws or your operating agreement, so that you're a real entity in the eyes of the law. And if people try to challenge your basis for creating a company, which, by the way, does happen, you can look back on those documents when you've consulted with qualified counsel and say, yes, but we took the proper steps. We opened the company was formed for a legitimate business purpose. It wasn't to defraud creditors or any other improper means. So you set the precedent from day one, the reason for your being, and you continue that. Now, sometimes, like with limited liability companies, the corporate due diligence process is fairly straightforward. You open your company, you maintain your annual registrations, and you don't have a lot of corporate upkeep. But with corporations, you do, and you have bylaws, and you have annual minutes. And so in each state is somewhat different. So it's important that you associate and get qualified counsel in the state where you're incorporating. So you have, you understand, make sure that counsel can guide you through that process. But it starts there and it continues. So sometimes I've seen over the years where a company has started out on the right foot, but then they forget to do their corporate minutes, or actions are taken or ownership changes and they don't reflect that in their corporate books. And if they go to sell their legacy someday, you have to go on the back end, and it can be a little bit of work. Not
title search, like a title search in a house. Let me ask you really quick, though, and I don't know if this will equate at all. Just got a couple of minutes here, Bridgette, but let's say I have a small corporation, a small company, owner-operator, and I wound up getting in an accident, and there's a court case and everything, and then they start doing a discovery on me. Is lack of proper paperwork, which had nothing to do with the accident whatsoever, but will they go back through the history of the company to say, well, I don't know how he can drive that truck because he sure couldn't put together a business, sort of a thing. Do they intermingle in terms of, you get what I'm saying?
Generally, another great question. Generally, no. The accident is going to concern whether the driver and whether the motor carrier company were legally liable for the accident, were they negligent, and what are the damages. The issue regarding whether or not a company was properly formed can come up on the back end where a judgment is entered. And then what happens is you have what's called debtor's examinations or supplementary proceedings, where at that point in time, the plaintiff attorney gets to go behind the scenes and see, okay, is there a basis for me to pierce the corporate veil to go after the company individually? Now, remember, when you're the driver, you're the individual operating that vehicle, you're going to be on the other side of the V with the motor carrier company, because the act of driving the commercial motor vehicle is personal to you. So even if you incorporate as an owner-operator, what you're going to see is ABC Trucking Company, that is the company you're leased onto, plus you, John Doe, as a defendant, and John Doe Trucking, your company. So just incorporating is not going to shield you from personal liability, which is the act of operating the motor vehicle, which is why if you're a 500 trucking company and you go out and you're the president and you operate a truck and then you're involved in an accident, that corporate form is not going to protect you from your individual acts of operating the motor vehicle. So that is an important point for folks to know out there.
Bridgette, we're out of time. We're going to actually have you on sooner rather than later for a 30-minute segment because this topic, like I said, the number of people who kind of go into small business without realizing they need attorneys on the front end as opposed to when they need them on the back end is staggering to me. And we can keep unpacking this for a long time. Just to give you a sense of who BB Legal is, when we do our Christmas show, the first time we ever did it, one of the first people to sign up and get a prime real estate slot was Bridgette Blitch.
Yes.
She made sure she was there Christmas morning for you guys. Bridgette, thank you. It's always great to hear that warm and wonderful voice, and happiest of Octobers to you.
Well, thank you. Same honor to be on. Thank you for having me. Have a great day, everyone.